Am excited to introduce you now to our next two speakers. So, joining us are Philip Yan and Hannah Lau, who are going to be sharing about the Redemptive Business Canvas. They shared with us last year, and we had such great feedback about their session that we have invited them back. So, Philip Yan is the founder and director of the Center for Redemptive Entrepreneurship at Tyndale University, which was launched in 2021 to equip and support entrepreneurs in renewing culture through redemptive innovation. And Hannah Lau is a redemptive business coach at the Center for Redemptive Business at Tyndale University. She is passionate about living out her faith through entrepreneurship and has been running her own redemptive consulting business since 2015. Philip and Hannah, welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Great to be here, everyone. Let me just share my screen first. I make sure. Okay. Thank you, Jen, for your introduction, and thank you, L.I.F.E, for inviting us. It's a real privilege to be here with so many of you who are shaping the future of education and innovation. Both Hannah and myself came as practitioners. So last year, we introduced Canvas as a tool for Christian entrepreneurs. Today, we want to share how it evolved into a learning framework designed for education, students, and venture alike. So we begin with a very simple insight. Existing business model tools do wonderful work, but they rarely address the questions of faith, purpose, and cultural renewal dimension. All of these are things, something that we all care about. And that's why we developed the Redemptive Business Canvas, not just to help launch the ventures, but to shape learning, practice, and transformation. We believe Christian entrepreneurs are actually called to build businesses that serve the community, renew culture, and bless people, restoring society to the way that God intended it to be. When a business is built with this purpose in mind, it naturally produces what we call redemptive impact, a transformation that is economic, social, and spiritual all at once. It is something that we all long to see, isn't it? But the real question is, how do we move from concept to practice? What does a pathway look like in action? And I think that question is where the canvas comes in.
For those of you who were here last year, you may remember this picture. All of us at some point have used tools that weren't necessarily made for the situation at hand, but in a pinch, we needed to get the job done. So you grab your car keys and you open up that latest Amazon box that just showed up on your doorstep, right? But when the context is more complex than a cardboard box and involves a variety of individuals and stakeholders, other businesses perhaps, vendors and others alike, and an ever-changing market landscape, making do comes up short. A business canvas in general is a visualization tool for creating a business plan. So while some of us may enjoy writing 40-page business Word documents, they're not the greatest in terms of giving us the clarity between the business functions and allows for us as a team to move things around, ideate, and do it in a very dynamic way. So while, reports and documents like that are helpful for, summarizing, when it comes to actually building those ideas out, a canvas is really helpful. And there are a number of popular business canvases in the marketplace. Here are two. We've got the Lean Canvas as well as the Business Model Canvas you may be familiar with. And they're not bad. In fact, they've been helpful to many people. But are these the right tools, or are they a car key opening a cardboard box? Well, we've all heard that 90% of startups fail, and I can tell you after working with over 300 of them, it's rarely due to the product. Far more often, it's due to reasons that are not captured on existing canvases. things like direction, values, leadership, operational management, and team culture, just to name a few. Existing tools are built for velocity. They help founders launch fast, sell fast, and scale fast. But fast means very little if you don't know where you're going. To integrate faith and entrepreneurship is to care about where we're going. That's why you're all here today. Redemptive outcomes are what we want to achieve. We're building for trajectory. So existing canvases are not bad, but they do not have the space for the things that trajectory calls for and must consider. So these canvases do not then tell the whole story of what a redemptive business represents. So to build for velocity, these canvases prioritize the business model first. The business model is the economic engine, answering questions like how many lemons are required to make how much lemonade, bought by how many people, at what price, in what place, over what period of time. And the purpose of existing canvases is to crack this code. So once you find the answer, then your canvas is pretty complete. But there's still no organizational structure, right? There's now an economic engine, but there's no house for it to live in and no people to keep it running. So then you scramble for the people who are then willing to serve this machine, and it becomes people for the business. The redemptive business canvas reverses the order, that a business should be direction and purpose first, answering, where are we going? Then an economic engine is built within the parameters of the direction and core values. The business model is not the star of the show. Yes, it has to work. It absolutely has to function, but it resides in a bigger context led by a foundational direction, housed in an organizational structure, and surrounded by the right people. The business is for the people, not people for the business. So similar to existing canvases, it certainly does include the necessary pieces of a business. Like we said, the business model does have to work, and that's the light blue part in the middle. Those are the boxes that go from problem all the way to finance. But to complete the story, we need the dark blue parts. The first three boxes, vision, mission, and core values, these are the anchor and do not change even in a pivot. And then we have the last three boxes, systems, team, and management. And these make sure we consider the people part. As this is a redemptive tool, you may be wondering, where are the biblical principles? And we've even been asked before, are there Bible verses for each box? Well, I can tell you there's probably not Bible verses for each box, but the biblical principles are baked in. And that's what makes this a truly redemptive tool through and through. Each of these boxes represents an area of the business organization. But when using the canvas, we apply biblical overlays that help us view groups of boxes through a certain biblical lens. So, for example, when we look at vision, mission, and core values, we look at through biblical lament. So if you're doing your vision, mission, and core values, and you're thinking, well, how do I do this redemptively? It's not a pie in the sky idea. It's not whoever wants to maybe put John 3:16 into the core values, right? We consider it through biblical lament, and we start from what breaks God's heart and our heart. When we look at the market strategy from problem all the way to marketing, we consider narrative. What's the bigger story God is inviting us into? God's narrative, and how our little narrative then fits into his bigger piece. Sales, production, and finance, we consider stewardship. And I know when I say stewardship, we often just think finance and funding and the money, right? But what about things like opportunities, relationships? Those things should be stewarded as well. And then finally, for systems, team, and management, we consider discipleship. So we're not here to just manage people. We're here to look at them as if we're discipling them and ask ourselves, how can we help these people flourish? These biblical overlays help us focus our efforts on redemptive opportunities that are relevant to the area of business. The redemptive outcomes are then captured in the metrics on the bottom. But actually, it's already baked in throughout the whole way. So it's more of just a place to summarize all that you've been doing throughout in being redemptive. The metrics are now a summary of community impact, financial sustainability, and individual flourishing. None of them is more important than the other. The three are held in tension.
So if that is the only one thing that you take away from our presentation today, let it be this. Redemptive business outcomes require redemptive tools that connect to our faith journey in a personal way. Tool designed with a redemptive value system and pathway will inherently aim to connect our calling that is rooted in the laments that God has put it in our hearts. Often there are lengthy lament processes before the calling, culminating in specific actions, just like the story of Moses. A redemptive pathway takes faith out of abstraction and weave it into a structure of organization. So what we proclaim in belief is also demonstrate in business. Let's give you an example. Part of the canvas help us visualize and form a theory of change that connect faith value to the redemptive outcomes. It shows how value that we input, our faith belief, worldview, and posture directly shape the value that we see in our outcomes. The canvas also revealed that operations aren't neutral. They carry values. How we design our systems, processes, and management rhythms either multiplies or mutes our intent. In the redemptive design, people are not input to efficiency. They are participants in renewal. When that is true, our impact grows naturally out of what we operate. Finally, Hannah talks about the metrics. We also call that footprint. The footprint makes the whole system measurable. It balances redemptive impact at the community level, financial sustainability at the business level, and stakeholder flourishing at the personal level. It gives leaders a holistic dashboard, not just asking, are we profitable, but also, are we restoring? And are we building systems where people flourish? The genius of the canvas is that it holds all three in tension, because faith, design, and management must move together to create redemptive outcomes. At CRE, this canvas has become the engine that powers all our programs. It provides a shared language and structured pathway for integrating faith and entrepreneurship in a way that is measurable, teachable, and scalable. I'd like to close by honoring the late Bill Poller, former president of ServiceMaster, whose work I had privilege of studying through the Poller's Research Fellowship with Dr. L. Erisman. Bill once said to L, and that is quote in here, there are no Christian companies, but there are companies that seek to operate from a foundation of Christian faith for the good of all. That conviction deeply influenced the creations of our redemptive business canvas, which, like the original ServiceMaster model, seek to move from belief to design, creating pathway where faith shape business for prophetic imagination and redemptive impact. So we love to continue the conversation with you. You can download a free copy of the Redemptive Business Canvas at redemptivebusiness.ca/canvas, or feel free to invite any venture builders who join our program that learning and building their own redemptive business model. Thank you so much.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love this practical tool. So I have two questions for you. The first question is, does the Redemptive Canvas apply to even for-profit businesses without a calling?
Well, for-profit business could find a calling, right? And that's the whole point, right? Even if it's not directly connected to your faith, I think we've seen a lot of successful businesses in the marketplace that, when they have that calling, it does actually focus the for-profit activities.
Great. Okay. Question number two. I love the idea to start entrepreneurship with considering God's feelings. What was a key insight that led to starting with Lamont? Would we arrive at a different place if we started with what delights God?
Yeah, I guess we heard a conversation about recognizing gaps in the society. So it's a gap that between God's creation, the intention, or the belief that we have, the world is supposed to be so beautiful, and the gap that we're facing. So it's in between these two differences that we want to use business as a way, as a tool for us to solve and to bridge these gaps. And I think that's actually the intention that we want to do.
Great, wonderful. Philip and Hannah, thank you so much for being with us again this year. Grateful for the incredible work the two of you are doing. So thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.